with low skills. The reform of apprenticeship must provide a seamless progression route from pre-apprenticeship right to tertiary studies, thus allowing participants to exit the route with worthwhile skills, qualifications and progression routes at the end of each stage. Minister, today ETBI asks that your department and SOLAS, once established, engage with ETBI to explore ways in which ETBs can add value to a reform model of apprenticeship, one that accommodates the needs of our young people for education and training and the wider needs of the economy and society. Delegates, I turn to the challenges facing second-level education in reforming teaching and learning. In this regard, Minister, ETBs are committed to collaborating with your department to deliver the changes essential to the young people becoming more lifelong independent learners. However, ETBI has serious concerns about the capacity of our schools, given the cutbacks in recent years, to deliver the necessary changes unless they have the structures and resources appropriate to the task. Remember, the task is to deliver real change, not just tick boxes. At last year's Congress, I warned that school management was stretched to the limit, and the situation has deteriorated further since. And all of this, as we embark on the implementing of the new junior cycle framework, new models for placement of trainee teachers in our schools, and new models for the induction and probation of new qualified teachers. If principals and deputy principals are to lead these reforms, we must provide them with the middle management structures and support necessary to do this. Minister, as I said in Ballyconnell last year, we must look again without prejudice at the middle management infrastructure in our schools. Without fit-for-purpose middle management, our schools will not be able to deliver sustainable reform. It may not be possible to resource all the desirable now, but it may not be possible to resource all that is desirable now, but all schools have a minimum middle management structure. Furthermore, all schools require dedicated resources over and above what they currently have to facilitate and support the implementation of the junior cycle framework. Otherwise, this crucial initiative will fail. Currently, the number of post responsibility holders in a school is a matter of chance. A lot of retirements is a disaster for a school. Few retirements is just about tolerable. But this is not just about the number of post holders in a school. We need a system where each post holder has responsibility for specific functions and is held accountable for the way in which these functions are performed. In other words, we must have real public service reform. Minister, Congress asks that your officials meet immediately with the management bodies to devise a solution to ensure that all second-level schools have the supports essential to both their effective management and the successful implementation of reform programs. Also, that a time limit should be placed on these talks so that real improvements can take place before Congress 2014. If a phased implementation is necessary, so be it. The bottom line is that some improvement is essential, and this must be in the context of a long-term strategy for the effective management of our schools. If we further avoid this issue, we put the management of our schools and the implementation of education reforms at risk. Delegates, there is a related matter that I would like to address. It's the myriad of DES circulars, and there are 500 active circulars on the DES website presently. Forms, guidelines, procedures, legislation, and strategic documents that ETBs, Board of Management members, principals, deputy principals, and other school staff need to be conversant with to do their job effectively. There's an urgent need to bring rationality to this mountain of documentation and reduce the workload of those who manage our schools, giving them time and space to undertake their more important functions. Minister, I'm going to propose a course of action that I believe could go to a considerable way towards resolving a difficulty that is growing exponentially. Could a small working group be established comprising representatives from school management bodies, the NAPD and the DES to develop a well laid out, easily searchable, easy to follow and understand, and continuously updated handbook for management of schools. Such a project would require the full support of the ES to be successful, but would require very little funding, and I'm sure you're glad to hear that, Minister. The handbook would be published on the web, and it would be necessary to agree protocols for continuously updating it as new circulars, guidelines, etc. are published. This is not a matter of starting from scratch. A lot of the resources already exist, and it is a matter of drawing these resources together into a coherent, accessible repository. Those who govern and manage our schools should be able to locate easily all relevant circulars and guidance on any matters, confident that the knowledge, that the information that they have is always up to date. Minister, if your department was to lead this development of such a project, I feel sure that it would have the cooperation of all the other relevant bodies. Its development would, I believe, make day-to-day governance and management of schools more effective, and it would usually facilitate the implementation of the vital reforms, including the Junior Cert reform, sustainable self-evaluation process, the national strategy to improve literacy and numeracy, the action plan and procedures on bullying, and the implementation of the new model of school placement for trainee teachers, the new model for the induction and probation of newly qualified teachers, and the new guidelines for mental health promotion and suicide prevention in post-primary schools. None of these will be implemented as they should be implemented unless we enable our school leaders to manage and lead without spending an inordinate amount of time finding out what they need to do to solve their day-to-day issues that arise in the school. The availability of an always up-to-date handbook would usually facilitate these developments. Minister, ETBI welcomes your proposals for reforming schools' admissions. They are a proportionate response to addressing a problem that many face each year in obtaining a school place. It is unconscionable that families should face the prospect of not being able to obtain a school place as of right, that those with special needs are deprived of attending the school of their choice, and that schools and parents have to negotiate a complex and adversarial appeal process. That said, the new procedures must be set out in guidelines that school management and parents can easily understand. They should not have to wade through legislation and regulations in order to understand the system. Minister, with an eye to the budget, this Congress implores you not to increase the pupil-teacher ratio for second-level schools. The consequences would be disastrous for subject choice and for those with some form of special education need. It would also undermine the viability of many, many small schools. Indeed, it would ring their death knell. We fully realise the budgetary pressures, but in our opinion, a further increase in the PTR would set second-level education back a generation. In conclusion, delegates, on the 1st of July 2013, our sector closed one chapter of its 111-year history, and we have just begun to write an exciting new chapter. The establishment of the ETBs and SOLAS provides us with unprecedented opportunities to influence the future of our country, and I have no doubt that we will grasp those opportunities. Taking these opportunities will no doubt present problems and challenges. In a sense, we are in uncharted water. There is no blueprint for overcoming the challenges we face, but working together, we can write our own script. Despite the understandable fears, how could one not be excited about the opportunity that has been presented to ETBs to transform education and training and the lives of our learners? Of course, resources are an issue, but if we work together constructively, we will find a way through. Remember, as Henry Ford noted, when everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Minister, delegates and guests, I thank you for your attention and courtesy. To each ETB member, to each CEO, To each staff member and to each friend of ETBI, I say, Go Ramila Waviv.